use my credit cards, about $85,000 worth. But I was promised $100,000 a month. So one of the talents got in trouble. My contract got canceled, and I was left with $85,000 of credit card debt. And all of a sudden, I got called into court. And a federal judge said, Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card? And I said, well, it started off as a gift card. A month later, I looked at my credit report, and all 3 banks were off my credit report. My credit score improved. I ended up here in the Philippines helping farmers build houses out of bamboo. I'm setting up free medical clinics for them.
Were you ever worried that you would be walking in the street, car would pull up and some men in black jackets would come out and grab you and throw you into the boot of the car?
Yeah, I did have, after I was successfully beating the banks, I turned into a credit repair. And so a lot of people had credit card debt. So I would write a letter to the bank, and it was so effective, it would be off their credit report. So about 3 or 4 years into it, I was really making an effective dent into the whole industry. They have a whole group of attorneys that are part of an association of debt collector attorneys, and they all conspire together and they share information together. So all of a sudden, I got contacted by 2, which I found out later were private detectives, and with a badge and a card showing that they were police from a neighboring city. So I knew they had no jurisdiction. So I wanted to find out what was going on. So I invited them in. They had some story about a stolen Xbox, and they were tracking it down by the internet and stuff like that. And they needed to see my computer. So I played along with them, but they were just 2 fools, 2 idiots that didn't know what they were doing. I finally chased them out. Then I called the police on them. And so if you're worried about me, I'm in a very tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. So I speak the language.
So when you were actually challenging the debt, did you have any weird reactions from the banks or the creditors that you were being challenged at the time?
Not really, because I have discovered that they have actually committed a crime. So they definitely don't want this crime to be committed, or definitely not in a court. So that's why the banksters contacted the judge saying, we can't make this thing go forward. Do something. And that's when the judge called me, because he read my complaint. He knew what I was saying, and he knew I was right, that the banks don't have an invoice, so you have no debt. He never signed a promissory note, so there never was a loan. And fraud undoes all contracts. And all I'm asking the bank to do is close the checking account. It's a free checking account since you don't pay for it. I just make sure my clients take their money out of the account first. Some people might call it maxing out the card. You're not maxing out the card. You're taking your money back out of your accounts. But no, I've not had any problem at all with the banks and stuff like that. So it's pretty much foolproof, because if the bank doesn't do what I asked them to do, I have the Fair Credit Reporting Act that forces the credit reporting agencies to remove it off, because I have the evidence.
You mentioned there that on a credit report, if it says credit card, that's equals fraud. Why is that fraud? Because it's on a credit report.
First of all, I'm a doubting Thomas. So yeah, I'm encouraging you to be a doubting Thomas too, and your audience too. So don't believe a thing I say today. Send this podcast to your certified public accountant, and in England, they call them an ACA. So send it to someone who's had 1 class of accounting, and they'll tell you, maybe they never thought of this before, but they'll tell you I'm right. The bank does not have an invoice. There was no loan, and they're 3, that fraud undoes all contracts. So that being all said, law is language, and language is law. So if you use the language of the criminal, you're never going to win the argument. So if you go into court and you say you got credit card debt, you got the debt. All I'm asking you to do is add 1 word, because we watch the TV and we see a bank robbery. And they always say alleged bank robbery, right? Well, just say it's alleged credit card debt. Now you're putting a burden on the bank to prove that there's a debt, not you going in assuming everything. People have been brainwashed. The attorneys, the judges, the whole system is so lied to. So there are true credit cards. This is not a get out of debt scheme. I encourage yourself to let me talk to your attorney. So there is a true credit card. Okay. So if you go to a tire store and you need tires and you don't have the money, they say, oh, why don't you just fill out this in-store application and say if you're approved? Well, you are. Great. So you drive away with new tires in your car and you didn't pay for it. At the end of the month, you're going to get a statement. That's true. And you have an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true. You owe the money. But then I had another client say, well, wait a minute, I did that with Walmart, or I did that with Amazon. And you're saying, no. How you can tell it's a true credit card or a fake one is look on the back of your Amazon or any kind of department store. If it says issued by Bank of America, Bank of England, Bank of Tokyo, Bank of India, it's a phony card because they are not a merchant. They didn't sell you tires. They didn't do a service. They didn't come out to your house and do a plumbing job. So they have no invoice. So they could never have issued a credit card. And that's why on the credit report, if it says Bank of America credit card, that's fraud.
That's quite a peculiar thing to like pick up on. Like I would imagine people that have some form of credit card debt, they never really check into it or do the research in a way that you did. But I wanted to ask you this originally because you've got a background in abnormal psychology, which perked an interest in me straight away. Did you think that background kind of played in a little bit in helping you spot this when other people probably haven't?
No one's ever asked me that question. Had a very big interest. My dad was a certified public accountant, so I had the interest in accounting ever since I was brought up. So I've always done debits, credits, done the spreadsheets and everything like that. So, and then I had a big interest. My high school counselor was a teacher of psychology at the city college, so I took a class with him there, and I got excited. So I was more interested in the crazy people. Not the violent ones. I was interested in the really crazy people. They just entertained me. So I actually had a double major. And so I worked at Napa State Mental Hospital. And so I usually say I was there, but I had a key. I could leave. I see it in a sense of the Stockholm syndrome. So people take on the identity of the abuser. So I've had people push back on me going, you got the credit card, you used the card, you owe the money. Well, that's the Stockholm syndrome where you've taken on the bank's argument and you're not even thinking. So you're basically brainwashed. If you question it, now you're not. But we've been lied to. And that lie's a lie, we can tell by that. But what if it's told generationally? Your mom says, here's a credit card, sonny. You got to pay it. If you don't, they take you to court and you lose all the money and don't ever be late.
So something your story raised in my mind was a theory I read a while ago about the illusion of validity. So it kind of, everybody thinks contracts or letters that come from authority figures are unchallengeable, they're airtight, they've been checked all the time. And I spoke a while ago on the show about authority words and fear words, and banks and debt kind of fall into both. Like if someone said you got a letter from the bank, instantly you'd think the worst, and you'd know that it's coming from someone with authority. And I want to ask you about this because people will have credit card debt to, I'm going to say unreliable creditors, but those credit card companies that aren't really established, aren't really got any authority. And those are the ones that maybe give you a credit card with really low interest or a credit line that's bigger than what you actually should have. Do you think that because we have such a fear over these authorities, it stops us from looking into it to see if we actually are technically falling into that world of fraud?
And that's what authority is, an author. So it's somebody writing it down. And that comes from your right hand, and that's your fist. So when people write things down, it's much different than singing it. So that's more poetic. So it's more your verses versus your prose. So it starts right with language and how we use our language. So when we see that thing in black and white, we believe it's true. And that's the thing. We don't challenge these things. And again, I have to challenge that what you're speaking of credit card debt is a true debt by a merchant. Think back 100, 200 years ago, you went into the general store. You said, hey, Charlie, I need 5 pounds of flour, a pound of sugar, and my crops are coming in a few weeks. They say, oh, yeah, I got you covered. And they keep writing a tab down. And then you say, hey, Charlie, can I borrow $10,000? What am I, a bank? We have to be very clear that it's store-issued credit card debt. And what I'm talking about is bank-issued alleged credit card debt. So that's where I differentiate it. So the bank never provided a service for you and never sold you any products. So now what you say is they loaned you the money. Okay, let's go that direction. So let me ask you a question. If you apply for a loan at a bank and they turn you down, do you still get the loan? No, you don't get the loan. It's a stupid question. It's very important because people mix that up. They hear application and they think that it's a contract. It's not a contract. They think that's a promissory note. It's not a promissory note. Back like what you said, if you get this letter from the bank that says you have an agreement with us, do you really? No, you don't. So what happens is when you apply for a loan, you're approved. Great. Then you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. Don't you remember doing that? All those pages, all those signatures, and you have to prove you have an income. Because how are you going to pay this loan back if you don't have an income? Think about this. The bank is brought into court. And the judge is saying to him, you're loaning people money that doesn't have an income? That's predatory. Wouldn't you agree? That's the problem the banks have. You also have to have collateral, because how is the bank going to be able to get the money back if you don't pay? You put your house up, you put your car up, and if it's a personal loan, you put your yacht up. Well, that's fine. So now they legally can take it away from you, sell it. If they come up short, that's their problem. If they come up long, they don't get to keep the extra money. They got to give that back to you. So you only pledged 100,000 and the yacht sold for $1 million. They don't keep the other 900,000. You also have a credit report, and a credit score determines your interest rate. But the last thing you sign is a promise to pay it back. If you don't promise to pay it back, the judge is not going to say, well, what is this? Well, we gave them a credit card. Well, that's called a gift card. If you don't promise to pay it back, it's not a loan. So that's the difference between going to a bank and doing a loan. You have to do all that. That never happened with the bank issued alleged credit card.
You've had quite a weird and wacky life with money. Well, how's your perspective on money changed since those early days?
I encourage you to look up this. It's 1776 to current, the U.S. Inflation rate, and you'll see it flat. And then all of a sudden, right around World War II, it starts going up. I believe the Federal Reserve created the Depression in the United States in the 30s. And that's because they wanted to eliminate the banks. That's what happened. They raised the interest rates so high, they choked off the economy. But the main purpose was to put banks out of business. Because in the beginning of 1913, they had no power. But by 1933, they were able to have enough power. And what they did is they put in the thing called fractional banking. What they do is, to have a loan, you have to sign a promissory note, and they write numbers, any numbers they want, into your free checking account. And that has caused inflation. So inflation's bad. No, not when you're the wealthy, not when you're Rothschilds and your employees at the Federal Reserve and in Congress and in your government too, but they're employees of the Rothschilds. And inflation's going to happen. You buy land now, sell it later at a higher price. Buy land then and sell at a higher price. Inflation's going to go up, so you always know the prices are going up. You make loans. You loan the money now and you pay it back cheaper, dollars or pounds, when it goes up higher. So someone always benefits, and who benefits is the wealthy. And you and me, who are like wage earners, we're always losing. We're always behind the eight ball. So that's where I have changed my perspective about money in that sense.
There's a aspect of the scarcity mindset that explains that people under financial stress cognitively perform the worst out of anybody else. So as soon as they've got any kind of financial problem, it's almost like their brain shrinks. They can't make better decisions in every other way of life. And you mentioned about the wage owners are kind of always behind the eight ball in this regard. But is there any methods you found for dealing with that financial stress or that financial implication?
Well, first of all, the fastest way to wealth is through real estate. And so you don't have to have money to buy real estate. All you need to do is find a motivated seller. And so if they dictate price, you dictate the terms. If they dictate the terms, you dictate the price. So in that sense, after that, then you find a motivated buyer. So if they dictate the terms, you can dictate the price. So that's how you can build wealth without having to go to work. Because again, this whole working thing is 1750 thinking. There's a guy on YouTube called Myron Golden, and he did a video on it's easier now to be a millionaire than ever before because of this time. So we had the agricultural revolution, that people that owned land were rich and anybody else was poor. Then in the 1750s, thanks to England and the whole country there of Ireland, they had the Industrial Revolution. So if you had an industry, you were quickly become a millionaire faster than you were by agriculture. Then in the 1950s, you had the distribution revolution, because what do you do with all these products? So people that are in with Walmart and the early stages of superstores benefited very well. Then in the 70s, you had the computer revolution. So anybody who was involved in the computers at that point were wealthy. And then you had the information, meaning the 2000 with Google. About 2015, you had the partnership like I did with Amazon. I write the book, they sell the book, they pay me money, maybe. And then you also have the infotainment. So you don't have to wait for permission to be an author. You can write your own music, you put your own video together, and all of a sudden you be a multimillionaire. I've actually come up with the next one is the free revolution. So I figured out how to feed people with free food freely, and I can make $5,000 a day. So I can also have people in free housing, and it has no cost to them. And I can have a portfolio of about 12 million in about 6 months. So there is ways of becoming wealthy by helping other people get out of their poverty of housing and also their food.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I feel like anybody who thinks about creating wealth automatically thinks about ripping someone off.
If you go up the dollar, that's you cut your morals and values, and you're just a criminal. Basically, that's what the banks are doing. So if you want to be moral, and that what you do is you want to help someone else. So what can I do to make your life better? So if you go to someone who's trying to sell their house, like this one guy did, and he offered her a lower price, and she didn't go. She had somebody else to buy it at a higher price. But then he came back and said, "What's bothering you? Something's bugging you." She said, "Well, I got these rabbits. My mom raised rabbits. She died. I'm trying to sell the house, and I got all these bunnies. I don't want to destroy them. I want them to go to some home." She says, "Well, my mom raises rabbits. I'll have her come over." Oh, they were best buddies. The rabbits went over to her house. The rabbits are going to have a good life. And then a month later, she called the guy back and said, "I will take your lower price." Well, you can make more money. I don't want to because they didn't help me. You did. So even though it may not be instantly, that's what you do. You focus on helping people. So with food here in America, if you go to food stamps, they call it SNAP, but it's a card and you get $300 a month. So if you got 100 people together and give me your SNAP cards, I can go to a discount wholesale store, Sam's Club, Costco, things like that, and I can have $30,000 a month. And then they have food pantries where the food from the stores are donated, so they get a tax deduction, to a food bank. The food bank sends this off to their distributors of their pantries. And I walk up and they give me 65 pounds of food a week. We're talking fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, frozen vegetables, frozen meat, fish, canned foods, pasta. I'm telling you, I laid it all out on the floor and took a picture of it. It's a huge amount of food. I couldn't eat it all. And I'm sitting there going, I make one meal and I got to eat it 6 times the next 2 days. I'm tired of eating the same food. And I'm thinking, why couldn't I have 5 friends come over and I could feed them? And if they did what I'm doing, oh my gosh, we'd have 20, 30,000 pounds of food a week. So then I'm going, well, I need a kitchen, but I don't want to be a restaurant. So in the United States, we think a thing called a private membership association. So if I create this PMA, people pay a $10 annual fee and they're a member. Now they can come into my thing called Art You Eat Gallery. Okay, so it's not a restaurant, it's a gallery. And I have culinary artists in residence. So they have free room and board, and I give them an allowance, and they are to cook all day and bake all night. And that's where we have thousands and thousands of pounds of food they are producing. And in about 3 to 6 months, I'm going to have them be a chef. I'm talking high quality, 7 cuisines. They will know inside and out, and they're going to know it from the science. So the very first class, we teach them how to boil water. Yes. How do you boil water? Because here's the water boiling. Put the rice in, cover it. Why didn't it cook right? Because it wasn't hot enough. Well, it's boiling. Right. Now there's different ways of boiling, different temperatures. You got to have more things. So that's what we teach them from the very first day. And they're baking all night and cooking all day. And that's all they do. They live for that. And they're doing art. So you become a member for $10 and you make a reservation for $10. That way I'm paid before the food actually is served. So I know how many people are coming. So if I can serve 100 meals and for breakfast, 100 for lunch, and 100 for dinner, I'm bringing in about 5,000. And you're going, the math doesn't quite add up. That's because we have tourists that come who we only see them one time. So they pay the membership. So their meal is $20. But I'm talking about high-end, high-quality appetizer, 4 different kinds of soup, And if you want all four, you get all four. We have four different kinds of salad. You get one or four. I don't care. You get an entree with two fresh vegetables and a dessert. And if you say supersize me, we give you all that for you. And you can walk out with a whole meal. So, and that's for $10. In America, $20 gets you a hamburger. And we're talking a 5-course, high quality art piece because I want my culinary artist to look at food as art. And that's where people are going to come to see the art. If they want to eat it, fine. You want to take it home? Fine. I don't care. So we're not a restaurant in that per se. So that's bringing in the 5,000 and 100 people. I have feed them every day, 2 meals a day, a brunch and a supper. And their cupboards are full of food. Their refrigerator's full of food and their freezer's full of food because I want them to have enough food for 30 days just in case something happens. So when food is becoming expired, they bring it back because they're coming eating every day a hot meal. And we're talking different cuisine every day. It's not macaroni and cheese. This is high quality food.
I always say to people that it's quite funny how every time that I have a new guest on with a new topic, I always somehow through that week end up reading something directly related to them. And it usually just comes up randomly. And one of the things I read that relates to was there was an article on the sunken cost fallacy. Have you ever heard this?
The sunken
Cost fallacy.
cost fallacy. Not familiar with that one. No.
I'll apply it to the world that we're talking about here now. So people that are in debt continue to fall in debt because they're already taking that first step that's the hardest part, which is accepting they're in debt. So, for example, the person that wants to get in shape never gets in shape because they never take the first step. The person that does get in shape takes the first step and realizes, right, that's the hardest part. I'm going to just continue on. Those people that are in genuine credit card debt, what advice would you give to them? Like, what should they absolutely not be doing that may be a little bit tempting?
Genuine credit card debt, you owe the money. You took a merchant's product or took someone's services and you didn't pay for it. You have to pay for it. Now, most people don't have those cards. They have the bank issued alleged credit card debt. So this is what happens is banks advertise to get you as a customer. When your mom was young and she went into a bank, the bank purchased toasters and wall clocks and said, ma'am, if you open an account today, well, I already have one. If you open up a second one, we'll give you a toaster. So your dad says, where'd this toaster come from? Your mom said, I got it for free. How'd you do that? I opened up an account. Did it cost anything? No. It's like the bank is going to give you, okay, we'll take it. There was an ad in the paper that said, if you deposit $25 today, we will match it in 90 days. So what did I do? I took my $25, went in and opened up my savings account, waited 91 days, and guess what happened? I took out $50. Now, let me ask you a question. Did I rip off the bank?
No.
No. Did I steal from the bank? No. Was that immoral what I did? No. The bank said, do this. I did it. And they gave me $25. It was their 25. The same thing is with your $500 credit card from Capital One. It's a gift card. They sent you a toaster. They sent you a wall clock. They matched your money if you deposit it. So they sent you a $500 gift card to entice you to get you into their system. So what happens? Well, let me ask you a question. What would you, if I sent you a gift card for $500, what's one item you like to buy today for $500?
I don't even know what will cost $500 now. A microphone.
Okay. So you go to the microphone store, you go to the electronics store and you buy it with your gift card, right? The credit card. See, if you use the language of the criminal, you'll never win. So it's a gift card. And so you're walking out the store and they say, wait a second, did you pay for that? And you have a receipt. So who owns that microphone? You do, right?
Me.
You have proof, it's a receipt, but you didn't pay for it, right? So that night or the next day, somebody paid the electronics store. So here's the question. Who paid that store?
Technically them.
The bank, right. And where'd
Yeah.
the bank get the money from? Their advertising budget, just like the wall clock, just like the toaster, just like matching funds. It comes from their advertising budget. Now, what's the big deal about them becoming a customer? Look it up yourself. I did this 2 months ago. What does the average person pay for credit card fees? And here in America, it's $23.04. So if Bank of America has 1 million cardholders, they're making $23 million a month. And I figured it out. It's 1/4 of their profits. So a fourth of the bank's profits worldwide are made from a scam. They're charging you $23 for a free checking account. Okay. Now let's go back to our scenario. You got a card in the mail from Bank of America, let's say, and you didn't even apply for it. It's pre-approved. Doesn't matter. You use the card, which you should do as a gift, and you get a statement at the end of the month, and you think it's a bill. Now, think about it. You have a checking account that you get a monthly statement. Is that monthly statement a bill?
No.
No, it shows the beginning balance, your deposits, the checks, the debits, and other fees, and you have an ending balance. The same thing is with your bank issued alleged credit card statement. Again, you got to speak the truth so that they made you're a good person, you're a moral person, you were brainwashed, you wrote a $500 check from the Bank of Ireland to the Bank of America, right? Isn't that the first time the bank has ever seen your money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that the first time Bank of America's ever seen your money? Yeah. Okay. Banks are only about loans. If you have no money and you go into a bank, you hope to come out with money through a loan. When you take money into a bank and leave it there, it's a loan to the bank. Well, most people don't know this, but you are loaning the bank money. You have your checks, you have your debit card, and you spend your money. Right. And then at the end of the month, if you want to, you can fill it up again and you get a statement. So when you wrote that $500 check thinking you had to pay for that microphone, which you didn't, it was a gift card, you loaned the bank $500. Every purchase since then has been with your own money, your money. Every purchase.
So I have one last question for you, because it's clear after speaking to you here now, you've researched every aspect of this. You've researched the legalities and the legal activities of it. So something I want to ask you is, what's the most ridiculous financial life hack that you've seen that in a weird way kind of works? Like what you're talking about, you can kind of get away with credit card debt if it's not official credit card debt.
I talked to one podcaster 2 weeks ago. I found him $20,000 he didn't know he had. So for most of my clients, I find them money. So what we do is we make sure we pay off the true credit cards and we get our money out of the accounts before that. But the whole idea is to become wealthy is through real estate and through then a process of not getting into debt, which is not the best thing to do. You want to become wealthy. And there's many different ways of becoming wealthy, not only from the free food, but also the free housing too. So back to your question is about what people can really do about it is that I can help people who are just now thinking, I got what they think is credit card debt and this bank and that they don't. Well, how can I get out of it? It's not getting out of debt. It's not being a victim anymore. You could have been sued. I had a podcaster contact me 3 weeks ago, and he got sued for $3,300 by Citibank. So what I had him do, he had about a few more days before it went to default judgment. And that's what happens. Everybody has no argument, so they admit it. So they get debt. So they get a judgment against them. I had asked the judge for more time, and that's to file a counter lawsuit. Once the bank sees this, I expect them to dismiss the case like happened to most clients ever before. So all we do is send them a letter, ask them to close the account, and mark it as good and since closed by the consumer and in good standing. And that helps your credit score. And I help you re-get a credit card with a bank issued credit card with the knowledge of what it is and a risk you're taking. So that I have you don't take an annual fee and don't pay any interest ever. So you'll be fine. So that's how we can help you get back on the track. And there's opportunities for you. And just I have a free consultation. So feel free to contact me and I'll give you my book for free.
On that topic, as before we sign off, plug your book.
Plug the book. It's called Forgive and Forget. And it's not forgiving in a sense, bank forgiving you. You are forgiving the bank for the fraud they perpetrated on you. So it's Forgive and Forget, How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. And you can find it on Amazon. And you can look me up at Tommy A. Kilpatrick on Facebook. And in the show notes will be my email and things like that. So one of the annoyances I had is no one's contacted me. So let's have one of your people contact me. Even if it's a troll, I would actually welcome that. Call me up, tell me I'm an idiot. So I don't mind it at all.